20. We'll be giving 2 additional minutes just to take care of some technical things on our side, and we'll be starting. We'll be starting in 2 minutes. State Emergency Medical Services Council public hearing on July 8th, 2020. My name is Ryan Greenberg. I'm the Director of the Bureau of EMS and Trauma Systems. Now passing this over to Mark Phillips, the Chair of the State Emergency Medical Services Council. Mr. Phillips.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're here for the purpose of a special meeting of the State EMS Council, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. The Secretary, Ms. Osgood, please call the roll.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Alexandro.
Here.
Patty Bashaw. Allison Burke.
Present.
Steve Cady. Dr. Krupke. Mark Peters.
Present.
John Duvall.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I could get everyone to mute themselves when they're not.
Yeah, I'm in a meeting. You can phone to it.
Mute yourselves when you're not replying. Thank you.
Yes, I'm getting lots of back here. Greg Gill.
Here.
Jason Hay.
Here.
Terry Hamilton. Ron Hassan.
Here.
John Hudson.
Present.
Stephen Kroll.
Present.
Jared Kitson. Al Lewis. Melissa Lockwood.
Present.
Masterson.
Present.
Michael McAvoy,
I'm here. I'm here.
Meryl Montrose, Thomas Pasquarelli. I believe his alternate Beth McGowan is on for him. Mark Philippi,
I'm present.
Marianne Portoro,
Present.
Jeffrey Raybrick, Wade Schwab, Carla Simpson,
Present.
Christopher Smith, Christopher Smith,
I am here. Can you hear me?
yes, thank you. Dr. Van Beveren, Jeffrey, Dr. Van Beveren, take yourself off of mute.
Jeff's on.
Violante,
I'm here.
there's a few in the beginning. I want to go back. Patty Bashaw,
I'm here, Val.
okay. Allison Burke, I got Steve Cady, Dr. Krupe, Don Duvall, all right, let me do my counts. I have 19 present, which we have a quorum. Just want to go back. Al Lewis,
Al Lewis,
And
please
Dr.
unmute your phone.
Do we need him for quorum? Then forget him. Just move forward.
you
Val,
need 17. Yep. Dr. Krupe and Don Duvall.
Al Lewis, we hear you now. Thank you very much. And Ms. Oska, thank you very much for confirming that there is now a quorum.
Yes, there is quorum.
Very well. Thank you all. A couple of quick ground rules as far as everyone is concerned. We've done all these Zoom meetings and WebEx meetings all along this period here. So the typical ground rules are applying here. You'll be muted unless recognized by the hearing officer or the chair to speak. Please, if you have not already, make sure that your video option is available for us if there is a necessity for a voting or any activity there. Thank you. This special meeting for the purpose of conducting a public hearing on the appeal by Chesde Devora Incorporated, doing business as Ezra Nashim, on the denial of certificate of need application by the New York City Regional EMS Council. That appeal will be heard today by the State EMS Council. Will be heard at the next scheduled meeting of the State EMS Council. This public hearing is in accordance with Department of Health Bureau of EMS Policy Statement 0606, which provides for a public hearing to be convened when significant opposition to an appeal is received to allow an opportunity for members of the public to express their opinions on such appeal. A petition in opposition was received by the department, signed by over 300 residents. As such, this special meeting of the State EMS Council has been convened to hear the public comment on the application and the appeal of Ezra Nashim. Today's hearing will be facilitated by Mr. Mark Furnish from the Department of Health, and I formally turn the meeting over to him. Mr. Furnish.
Hello, my name is Mark Furnish, and I'm with the New York State Department of Health's Office of Primary Care and Health System Management. And as it was noted, I will be moderating this public hearing today. And I do know for the record that we have quorum. This public hearing concerns the new ambulance service application submitted by Ches de Devora Incorporated, doing business as Ezra Najim. Ezra Najim is a volunteer New York State certified basic life support first responder organization that has been operating since 2013. They propose to operate a one ambulance staffed with approximately 10 to 15 volunteers, EMTs, 10 dispatchers, and 2 administrative staff members, and would serve the Borough Park area of Brooklyn. Ezra Najim submitted their new ambulance service application on July 25th, 2019. Shever Hetzela, an emergency medical service EMS group providing advanced life support and having ambulance serving the same community, filed opposition to Ezra Najim's application on October 25th, 2019. The New York City REMSCO held a public hearing to discuss this application on October 30th, 2019. The New York State Department of Health's Bureau of Emergency Medical Services issued a determination of fitness and competency to Ezra Najim on November 13th, 2019.
This meeting is being recorded.
At a public meeting on November 19th, 2019, the New York City REMSCO declined to approve Ezra Najim's application. Ezra Najim subsequently appealed the REMSCO decision. On May 1st, 2020, an administrative law judge, based on written submissions only, issued a report and recommendation finding that the New York City REMSCO decision should be reversed and Ezra Najim's application should be granted. In summary, the administrative law judge's report and recommendations was based on a finding that while Hetzela is providing a high level of care and response times in Borough Park area, granting Ezra Najim an operating certificate would nevertheless fulfill an unmet need in the community. Specifically, Ezra Najim is already operating a certified first response organization and responding to calls in Borough Park. Adding an ambulance service would shorten the ambulance response times for those individuals who choose to utilize the services of Ezra Najim by eliminating the additional step of calling another agency to provide ambulance transport. This report and recommendation will now go to the State Emergency Medical Services Council for a final decision, which is going to be scheduled. The meeting's going to be scheduled in the immediate future. However, pursuant to the New York State Department of Health's Health Bureau of Emergency Medical Service Policy Statement number 6-06, when significant opposition to an appeal is received, a public hearing must be held prior to SEMSCO's final determination. On June 10th, 2020, Shever Hetzela requested such a public hearing and supplemented that request with a petition signed by 330 residents of Borough Park. This meets the threshold of significant opposition, thus triggering this public hearing. And with that history outlined, I just wanted to go over some ground rules for today and discuss some technical aspects so that everybody has their questions answered. The purpose of this hearing is to enable members of the public to express support or opposition to the application of Ezra Najim. It is not an adjudicatory hearing. There will be no crosstalk or questions of speakers. This is simply to allow the public to submit written and verbal testimony as to the status of the application. We will begin the public hearing, and I'm told that this was based on the understanding of the parties, with comments from Shever Hetzela, and then the public, and then finally ending with Ezra Najim. Now, you may be wondering, if you're looking at the screen, we're all new at this, is that you only see a limited number of video feeds on your screen. I can assure you that once you're called up to give your testimony, you will pop up, and if you have video on, you will be seen by the general public. So if you don't see yourself on the screen now and you have your video on, you will be popped up. Speakers at today's meeting have pre-registered and will be permitted to speak in the order which they registered. Each speaker will be allowed no more than 2 minutes to address this hearing. Those are the public speakers. Any speaker who exceeds their allotted time will be reminded that they've exceeded their time, and if they continue, could lead to being muted. The parties themselves have 10 minutes. Those representing the specific parties to the application will have 10 minutes. Repetitious comments will not be permitted, and any speaker who repeats a prior speaker's comments will be muted, and we'll move on to the next speaker. So try to avoid repetitive statements if you can. Today's technology will be managed by John McMillan. Should you have any issues, please instant message Mr. McMillan within the platform, and they're monitoring this during the entire course of the hearing. Speakers. Then I have, okay. So the Hessler will go last. And one other thing to note, just, because we're all new to this technological thing, the two parties that have 10 minutes to speak, we will monitor that time and we'll let you know when there's 2 minutes left, a minute left, and then let you know when time is up. The 2-minute public speaking section, you'll actually see a timer, I'm told, on your screen, and we can count down together when your time is up, and you can judge that way. With that understanding, we can get underway. And who's up first? The parties? Jessica Gold. No, is it Hetzela's going first?
Nope. So it's just going to be the public speakers first.
All right, so we're going to start with the public speakers, and I have Jeffrey Reisner going first.
He's counsel, so he's
now Jessica Goldsmith.
Jessica Goldsmith.
Can you hear me?
Yes. You're unmuted, Jessica.
Okay, I just want to say I'm actually not considered the public. I'm actually speaking on behalf of Ezra נשים. So do you want or would you like me to wait till the end?
Are you speaking for one of the parties involved?
Yes, Ezra נשים.
All right, then you will go with them and you'll be part of their 10-minute presentation.
Yes, okay, so I will wait till closing statements then.
Next up, we have Stephen Cohen.
Are we doing? Using.
Stephen Cohen.
Be patient.
All right, moving on to Paula.
Wait, hold on. Just make sure that wasn't a technology issue on our side.
Paula Eslett.
He's telling me you need to have Reisner go down.
All right, sorry for the technical confusion here. I'm getting a lot of different messages being sent across to me. I'm told that Jeffrey Reisner absolutely has to speak right now, so we'll start with him. Jeffrey Reisner.
Hello, can everyone hear me first of all? Yes?
Yes, we can hear you, Jeff.
Okay. I had previously been of the understanding that I was going to speak first, and then I saw the written agenda, which had me speaking immediately before Ezra נשים. So I have prepared my remarks with the intention that I would be speaking after all of the public speakers. I would prefer to do that if it is all right, because my remarks are going to be largely legalistic. And I think that it's important that we really focus the lion's share of the attention today on the speech and opinions and feelings of the women of Borough Park. So I would, if it's okay, appreciate if I could go after all of the public speakers have been through.
That's fine, and that's what I originally had you doing, so that's fine, and I appreciate that, and thank you for everyone's patience. So I'll ask one more time for Paula Eslett.
John, can we just make sure that her technology is over? And if you're having any problems moving that over? I have to.
Then I'll go on to Joseph. Joseph Hecht.
Yeah. So we need a second to move them into them.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My name is Paula Izelt. I am the director and producer of 93 Queen, a feature-length documentary that followed the formation and launch of Cezret Nashim. I followed the women of Cezret Nashim for 5 years in Borough Park and was embedded in the launch and formation of this ambulance corps. The film has screened on POV's PBS. It has been broadcast worldwide. It had a national theatrical release. And the success of the film is due to the power and women of Cezret Nashim. From that release of the film, there has been an outpouring of support and expression of need for this ambulance corps from people around the world and locally women from Borough Park and women in New York. So much so that new branches are opening on Long Island because of the exposure of the film to Cezret Nashim. As I followed Cezret Nashim for 5 years, I saw firsthand through interviewing women on the ground about how dire the need for this service is. I received countless messages of support for Cezret Nashim. But let's be honest, we are not here today because the need is in doubt. Two impartial parties, the REMSCO hearing officer and the SEMSCO administrative judge, both gave the opinion that there is need. This is not about an ambulance. This is about power and perpetuating a system of intimidation. I've witnessed that intimidation as I filmed how difficult it was for Cezret Nashim to obtain medical supplies because suppliers feared Hatzalah. I was told that Hatzalah had threatened hospitals not to train Cezret Nashim. I got voicemails from angry members threatening me. On the flip side, I've had Hatzalah members approach me saying that the leadership does not represent them. The need for Cezret Nashim is great. Again, this is about Hatzalah's leadership retaining power and control. This is about so much more than need, and frankly, Hatzalah is taking this committee for fools for trying to convince you that there is no need. I'll leave you with this thought. In a time of COVID, why on earth would Hatzalah or anyone be trying to prevent more access to healthcare? The needs for healthcare right now are unprecedented. So much so that Governor Cuomo has lifted restrictions for healthcare professionals and has made it easier to serve. Hatzalah is doing the exact opposite by trying to withhold care and prevent an ambulance from operating when we need it most. It's unfathomable and extremely suspect.
Thank you. The time is up. Thank you very much. Next up is Joseph Hecht.
Yes, could you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak this evening, or this afternoon, I should say. I live in the Great Neck community of Long Island. I've been living here for 23 years. We have an ambulance service here on a volunteer basis called Vigilant. They've been doing amazing work for the past 100 years, and we've been extremely satisfied with them. Approximately 2 years ago, Hatzalah decided to come into this community. As you can imagine, Vigilant was very concerned about that. I was very instrumental in ensuring that both Hatzalah and Vigilant could be operating in this community. And I welcome both organizations with open arms because I feel, especially in this time of COVID, that more is better than less. And life-saving efforts is most important. There's no egos here. This isn't a for-profit organization. This is a nonprofit, and the goal here is to save lives. Similarly, as in Great Neck, in Borough Park, yes, Hatzalah does amazing work. I used to live there for 25 years of my life. I've used them myself, but there's certainly a need for women to call Cezret Nashim in certain circumstances of privacy that they feel more comfortable with a woman coming. Hatzalah doesn't offer them to integrate into their organization. And by the way, I was the first person to buy the first ambucycle for Hatzalah of Israel. I'm very involved in life-saving efforts for about 20 years now. And they have in Hatzalah of Israel a women's division as well as a men's division. There's no reason for competition. Just like in Great Neck, there was a concern. Ultimately, both organizations work side by side with great coordination, and the community welcomes both of them. I personally use both of them. And just as well, in Borough Park, women could call Hatzalah if they feel that they want to call Hatzalah. They could certainly call Ezra's Nashim, but choice is good, especially in the 20th century, 21st century, where women have rights as well. And I think there should be free will, and more is better ultimately. And I hope that this board will be able to vote in favor of Hatzalah, for Ezra's Nashim's ambulance in Borough Park. Thank you so much for your time and for listening.
And thank you. Next up is Heshki Teschler.
Hello.
I can hear you.
Dear members of the SEMCO board, it's been an honor to serve my community in a non-official capacity for over 30 years, including issues related to foster care of children, assisting paroled prisoners, reintegrating back them into mainstream society, feeding hundreds of families every week, and helping combat homelessness. And I help people navigate red tape through a multitude of government agencies to make their lives better. I also serve as a court-appointed receiver for the city of New York. I personally took care of my mother for 8 years of her life. She was a religious Holocaust survivor and only had female attendants, which she was adamant about till the last moment of her life. In the hospital, she had no issues with male doctors, but was uncomfortable when we had to bring in them to do blood work. Hatzalah members were also, she was a little uncomfortable when they touched her private parts. When you are in an emergency situation, your state is traumatic and compromised, both emotionally and physically. During that time, the last thing a woman of any age, from teenage to adulthood, who have been taught to be modest or to be touched by a man, adds additional unnecessary trauma under these circumstances. When a woman who is a religious woman may be in the process of giving birth outside a hospital, she is likely to find male contact to be violating or personal and religious from her personal religious convictions. I'm a community activist that stands up where I see injustice. Unlike some elected officials who are fearful of speaking out, I am not. I stand where others fall. I fight for injustice, and Ezra's Nashim is being deprived of their constitutional right. Ezra's Nashim has a right to close the gap on emergency medical care in our community, namely allowing women to help. Women are not just competent, they are more qualified as EMTs to serve the women of Borough Park, and it's more appropriate for them than for men. Please understand the unmet need for women in Borough Park to be given the equal opportunity in pre-hospital emergency care. Show your commitment. SEMCO members, as a candidate for public office, I end off by imploring you that you use your decision-making power with honesty, integrity, and not being swayed and intimidated by bullying tactics.
Thank you very much. Next up is Deborah Chamel, and we'll wait.
Okay, that's me.
I can hear you, so feel free.
Okay, I don't want to repeat points that were already made, but Ezra's Nashim is very vital because of the laws of modesty, so I will say that. I have a degree, I have a master's in special education. I work with children who have special needs, and a lot of them have a lot of mental issues, and they do not feel comfortable with a man coming and help them, especially a strange man. A lot of girls who unfortunately suffered abuse under the hands of men panic at the thought of a man come to help them. And a lot of them who it's a life and death situation will not call Hatzalah because that will be a man coming and they'd rather die. So this becomes a life and death situation to have a woman who they can call to come and assist them. I don't want to repeat any other points, but also when a girl is, let's say, in school, these are all girls' schools, and for whatever reason it's deemed necessary that they have to call an ambulance to take them to the hospital, they do not feel comfortable with a man, especially there can be no one else in the ambulance, the parents aren't there, no one can go with them, and for them to be in a car with these strange men, for them is so panic-inducing that they can lead to very fatal outcomes. And for these reasons, Ezra's Nashim is extremely vital. No one's being forced to use them. You can call anyone else you want if you have that option, but they have to at least have the option that if they feel more comfortable, they should be able to call a woman to help them in their time of need. And I still have some time left, but that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Up next is Shandi Weisberg.
Hi, yes.
I can hear you, so feel free to go ahead.
Okay, great. My name is Cindy Westbrook. I reside in the Borough Park area. I am in opposition to Ezra נשים. Hatzalah has been around for many years. It doesn't seem to be a need. Hatzalah is a well-rounded organization that when you call, they are there within minutes, within seconds even, giving you the help and care that they need in terms of modesty. All Hatzalah members do know how to respect a woman's privacy and handle them in such care where they do not feel violated in any way or shape or form. I personally know that when they take you into the hospital, they do not leave your side until you are taken care of. They will meet every single need that you have. A woman is not made to feel uncomfortable, even in the time of need. They protect her, they treat her with such modesty, and they're not in a way where they're exposed and made to feel uncomfortable. Most people that want to call as a נשים, they have a choice to have a female operator, but they can just as call 911 and they can get a female operative coming. I strongly believe that there is no need for Ezra נשים in our neighborhood. There's many private organizations. Yeah, that's it I have.
Thank you very much. Up next is Sarah Levine. Hi, Sarah.
Looking in 17. License was in 9.
And if people could mute their phones as we wait for Sarah, I'd appreciate that. Sarah Levine, are you present? All right, then we'll move on. Next up is Shani Richter.
Can you hear me?
Is
Hi,
Shani?
can you hear me? Yes.
Shani
Hi,
Richter? Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
I'd like to share my story that happened to me 3 weeks ago. My baby is just about 3 weeks now. So sometime in my 9th month, I saved Ezra Nashim's number to my speed dial. I just knew that if there was an emergency, I would want a woman there. Even more than that, I don't think I'd ever get over the trauma if there was a male. In any case, thank God they were on speed dial because I needed them. The dispatch was calm, patient, and reassuring. And within a few minutes, 2 incredible lifesavers appeared in my house just in time to catch my baby. I cannot even describe the professionalism they displayed. The birth was so fast, but they were faster. Yet that was just the beginning. I marveled at how expertly they cared for my newborn, wrapped her and handed her to me, and how well equipped they were. Unfortunately, they couldn't transport me though, since they're not licensed for an ambulance yet. I say unfortunately because I know that if they would have had that ambulance, there would not have been 3 ambulances. They called 911 for me. So to transport me, and there would not have been 3 ambulances and 2 police cars blocking my street with lights and sirens blaring just because a healthy woman had a healthy baby. That was pretty embarrassing. I know that Ezra Nashim would have transported me quietly without the trumpets. Oh well. And when they saw how uncomfortable I felt with the ambulance crew that took over, they assured me that one of them would follow closely behind and meet me at the hospital. And sure enough, she was there. Even in the hospital, she stayed by my side and continued to support and encourage me, as she'd done throughout the delivery in my home. Meanwhile, back at my house, the other EMT remained behind and cleaned up the mess. I don't know anybody that would do that. I'm just so grateful we have a community service geared specifically for female emergencies. For me to have personally witnessed and experienced Ezra Nashim in action is a gift. These selfless, dedicated women, strangers, came into my life to create a miracle in the most professional manner and quietly slipped out when they were done. They get no credit for discreetly delivering God knows how many babies. On the contrary, they have to put up with heavy opposition, and yet they forge on. I can't thank them enough for what they've done for me, what they do, and what they represent. I really hope we get there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Up next is Marty Youngres.
Not in the list.
Okay, moving on to Rabbi Polak.
Rabbi Polak actually registered on my behalf. My name is Amalia Tolchin, and I'm an 18-year-old girl from the Borough Park area. So as a young woman in Brooklyn, Ezrat Nashim acts both as a necessary advancement in emergency services in New York and as an inspiration for me, as well as many of my peers, to realize the impact that women can have. Emergency situations where one typically finds herself in discomfort, no matter what, are made worse when a woman feels embarrassed by the presence of men whom she typically would never let see her in such a vulnerable position. For me personally, as an 18-year-old girl in the modern Orthodox community, I know I would feel mortified to have a man who could potentially be my next door neighbor as my EMT. If this was the only way to provide emergency service, I would understand. However, when the women of Ezrat Nashim are fully equipped to handle the same situations, why push back? Ezrat Nashim provides a unique service that is crucial to every woman in the Borough Park area. Additionally, should we not look to help them expand? Obtaining an ambulance license would allow Ezrat Nashim an opportunity to help more women feel as comfortable as possible in a difficult situation. I know it would matter to me. Whether it be for a teenager like myself, to a 90-year-old woman, a Hasidic woman, or a modern Orthodox one, it's clear the by women for women care Ezrat Nashim provides is necessary. Knowing that Ezrat Nashim can be there for me as well as all my peers throughout the rest of my life if I ever experience an emergency would be a great comfort. I truly hope they will receive their license so they can continue to provide care to and make the lives of all the women of New York better, no matter who they are. Okay, that's it.
Thank you very much. Jacob Bard, you're up next.
Hello, I've been unmuted, so I assume you guys can hear me.
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear.
All right, good afternoon, and thank you. I want to cut to the chase. This whole discussion boils down to two very simple points. Number one, has Ezrat Nashim provided a valuable service the past few years? The answer is yes. Question number two, will the services be enhanced by granting them an ambulance? The answer is a resounding yes. In our society, in our economy, in our civilization, more options are always better for everyone. And here we're talking about our most cherished people of our society, our women. They give birth to the next generation. They're the ones who are supposed to carry the torch for us. And our whole civilization relies on them. So why would we not want to give them the option to be serviced by other women? If you have no problem being handled by a man, well, you have an option. But what about women who want women? They should also have that option. Thanks for giving me this opportunity to speak on this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Up next is Harry Rubenstein, and I just want to see if we can, Harry Rubenstein, you're up next, and we can reset the clock before you start.
Don't have a Harry Rubenstein. Unless they don't call me.
All right, Harry Rubenstein, are you present?
Yes, he's a call-in.
All right, up next is Melinda Keller.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Just let's wait. Can we reset the clock?
Okay, I was going to take the extra 20 seconds, but...
Oh, you know what? All right, thanks.
Okay, good afternoon. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm a physician in Borough Park. I was born in Borough Park. And I've been here my whole life. I'm a practicing physician for close to 40 years. As a female practitioner, I have hundreds, if not thousands of times, personally witnessed patients refusing care because there is not a physician of the same gender available to care for them. It's a serious decision. It's a personal decision. It's not whether I agree or not agree, but I have seen people choose to suffer versus receive care because there's not somebody of their same gender. You know, I've had when I'm not in the office and there's a male here, I've had women outright refuse to come in and vice versa. If somebody needs to bring their son in, even on an emergency basis, and there's not a male doctor, they refuse. They refuse care. So I am, completely in favor of a female, skilled, competent, caring, professional emergency service to take care of the women in our community when they so choose it. I don't understand at all how they're not included. From what I understand, Hatzalah does not have an availability for women to join. They're refused, and not welcome. So I feel very strongly about this, and have witnessed firsthand the professionalism of this organization, and really hope that you'll consider giving them equality on every level. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Up next is Vilma Halpert.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and feel free to start when at your convenience.
Okay, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of myself, my family, my friends, and my community. I would like to address Ezra Snusham's claim that for modesty reasons, we need an all-female ambulance service. This claim is completely false. It's a lie. But anyone not well-versed with Jewish law would believe that claim at face value. And that is why Ezra Snusham is making that the battle cry, because it sells. However, if you look a little deeper into the Jewish community's patterns and preferences, you will be surprised to find that Jewish females, modest women, many times, many times, prefer males when choosing doctors and therapists. It's not a modesty issue, it's a preference issue. Hundreds and hundreds of women choose male gynecologists, male therapists to treat their anxieties, their depression, their marriage counselors, and even for cosmetic surgery, they choose men. However, there isn't one woman, I dispute what that doctor said, in the world that would compromise their health or, God forbid, their life just because the person helping them was a female. Hatzalah's excellent reputation for saving lives, their record fast response time, their extremely experienced volunteers are held in such high esteem that even the non-Jewish police officers in our community call Hatzalah for their own family members when there's an emergency. Today there's a movement. It's called the Black Lives Matter movement. How precious is one black life that all the world is outraged by one man's death, rightfully so. Jewish lives matter too. A false claim of modesty can never and should never take precedence over anyone's life. Lives matter. Hatzalah's record is the best in the country, and that was never disputed. In a life-threatening emergency, how could you risk taking a chance at calling anything other than the best? My mother just passed away 6 weeks ago due to COVID-19. She was modest and righteous all her life. She was home. Hatzalah came all days and nights. Angels, my mother called them. Angels. She felt so secure with their help and never expressed any discomfort at having them. I'd like to close with a
Anyone else just lose audio?
I'm sorry, Yidi Fish, is that Jeannie Williger?
Yes, hi. Hello?
Hi, Jeannie, you're up, and I can hear you.
This is Yidi.
Oh, Yidi. Hold on just a moment, Yidi. We had an audio glitch, and I just want to make sure I don't surpass anyone. Jeannie Williger?
You don't have them on our list?
And Frida Cantor? No. All right. I'm sorry, Yidi Fish, you are up, and I can hear you.
Hi. So I'm an emergency room nurse for the past 11 years. I have actually been on the end where I've been part of Hatzalah myself. I've actually entered their units when they needed some help with some sensitive subjects. They're actually experienced and my help with them was something that they need, which Ezra Nashim is claiming to have the experience. I don't think that is the case. I've been involved with Hatala for the last 11 years. They're definitely male-based. However, when it came to privacy, they include people that they need to join them to give the privacy to the people that are requesting it for female purposes. They have knowledge, guidance, and courtesy and respect for the members that constantly come in, and they stay with their patients for hours if need be. They're for their patients. Their experience speaks for itself. And I just wanted to say how important they are for our community. And they will involve people that they need to for the respect and privacy of individuals such as females. And I myself have been called to numerous calls for that purpose. Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you very much. And before we go forward, just an announcement that if you want to be on video and you're called up, if you click on your video screen, you can unmute your video. You can turn on your video, and you'll be seen. That's not mandatory, so only if you want to. But that option is there for people if you didn't realize that. Up next is Debbie Heller.
Don't have.
Told you don't have her.
No.
Shavy Grossberg.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity.
I can hear you, and feel free to go.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Before I begin with what I wanted to say, I want to bring out something that Jason said, which is a really good, valid point. He said, what's wrong with options? There is nothing wrong with options, and every person should have options, except usually when somebody is in a terrible state, when they need to call for emergency services immediately, most people tend to lose themselves. So imagine a scenario if there were options up on their wall. They would get extremely confused, and it would just bring tremendous, this is not an area where options would be beneficial. If they had one center number that they could call that they knew would arrive immediately, that really is the best for our community. I did want to mention an interesting point. We all value our local rabbis. Everybody seeks their guidance for all matters. I'm curious as to why not one local rabbi has given their approval to Ezrat Nashim. I'm just curious about that. Also, they speak about modesty. Now, being on television, Queen, that documentary that they made, all that is not at all modest. It's extremely immodest. I'm confused as to why a group of women who claim to be doing things for modesty is behaving in such an immodest fashion. This is definitely not something that all the women in the community are actually really upset about it, because we think they're portraying most of the majority of women in the community when in fact they are not. And one more thing, I have seen the signatures. They did give in quite a few thousand signatures. As the leader in the community, in the Borough Park community, I hardly recognized any of them. If you were to go through the signatures, you would recognize that a very, very small percentage were actual signatures from our community, and actually there were signatures from elsewhere. Thank you very much for listening and for giving us the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Up next is Yehudis Reed.
Don't we? She was on her phone call and she left. Okay, I don't have her.
Okay. She's not here. Rachel Mandelbaum.
Don't have her either.
All right, moving on to Sarah Selovitsky.
No one by that name either.
All right, moving on, Leah Lasser. There's
a different Leah here, but that's not the name. Check, because it could be a difference in names. How can I check? No, pull her in and just, okay. Because I know we have one.
Just wait a few minutes to see if anyone's scrambling to their phone, to their computer.
I think they by mistake put me on.
All right, let's move on to Kaya Mandelbaum.
Hello.
Hi, who's speaking?
Yes, who is this? Yep, we can hear you. Feel free.
Recently experienced, exactly 4 weeks ago, a home birth, and it was actually not planned. And when I realized that, I couldn't get there in time, I knew that I could rely on Hatzalah. And within seconds, they arrived, the most professional EMS service. They came, they knew exactly what to do. They laid me down, they calmed me down. They said, as soon as you feel something, let me know. And I felt so relieved that I knew that I could rely on somebody that was just professional and knew what they were doing and knew exactly what I needed at that point. And yes, even if they were males, my doctor was also a male, so I did not have a problem with that. And they totally understood my need for modesty. Actually, my window shades were open, and I was a little bit annoyed. But they right away realized that, and they closed the shades, and they said, hey, don't worry. And then as soon as they were taking me out of the ambulance, they made sure I was covered, that I shouldn't just be exposed to everyone in the street. I felt really relieved and really taken care of, that I knew that I had such an EMS service, that someone that could take care of me. As soon as I arrived in the hospital, they made sure they got a nurse right away, someone to come help me and assist me and told me, if you need anything, don't worry, we'll get you whatever you need. They wheeled me exactly where they needed to. And then as soon as they saw that I was in good hands, they left. But I felt like I had to be in really good hands. I really appreciate it, and I want to thank Hatzalah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Henny Gross?
That's me. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can. Feel free to go ahead.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I have a mother-in-law, an elderly woman with Alzheimer's who's living with us. I strongly feel that her aides would be very confused if there would be more than one option of numbers to call in case of emergency, as well as the fact that she's a heavy-set lady. Many times she falls on the floor and we need to call people to help get her up. It would be impossible for a woman to be able to lift her. The Hatzalah came at any given time of the day and night and were very helpful and very, very considerate, and were always there for us. I strongly feel that there's no need for another ambulance. It's just going to confuse us all as who to call. I thank you so much for letting me share.
Thank you. Rebecca Allman?
Hello?
Hello, I can hear you, so feel free.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. So I've had to call Hatzalah several times, be it the middle of the night, be it on a holiday, Sabbath, and they were always so prompt to come. Within a couple of minutes, they are there. They can just jump out of, bed or whatever it is. They get there very quickly. So sensitive to everything that you feel in terms of being a woman. More so for me probably than another female, because they try to be even more sensitive because they know that people might be uncomfortable with it. I also feel in terms of response time that, for a woman to, based on the Ezras Noshim, for a woman to, run out of the house at any given time is not half as easy as a man to just jump into a car and get somewhere. And the men's response time for me has always been literally within 90 seconds to 2 minutes, which is extremely quick. I feel that if it's something that's a non-emergency, I would have no problem calling something like Ezras Noshim. If it's not an emergency and I could go around in a couple of hours, someone can come to me, I would feel comfortable with that. Before an emergency, it's something that I would never ever do. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Ewell Weishaus?
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and council and attendees. I'd like to address the principle that the patient gets to choose how they want to be treated and what kind of treatment they'd like to receive. In this particular instance, we're involving a competition between a lady organization and a male organization. If a patient would like to have female services for her healthcare, that option should be available. It's usually in this state, in most of the states of the United States, we support the individual choice of a patient. We also support the idea that the patient gets to choose, for example, you take an example, abortion. The person gets to choose whether they would like to have the birth at its time or they'd like to terminate. The same should be applied here, that females should be given the choice if they prefer to have the choice. And I yield back my balance of the time.
Thank you very much. Up next is Fremi Fogel. Okay, Shia Ellis. Okay, Fremi Lerner.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Hi. Thanks for the opportunity. I happen to be a speech pathologist in Borough Park. I was born in Borough Park 35 years ago, and I was blessed with 6 young children. I live on the 3rd floor. When I have an emergency, I need an immediate response time. And if, God forbid, an adult needs to be carried down in a stretcher, I need to know that there's physical manpower that can carry them down safely and efficiently. Hatzulah fills in that criteria. They're quick response time, physical power, and they're efficient. And in addition, the whole modesty issue that keeps on going back and forth, in our Hasidic community in Borough Park, we don't appreciate or value, women doing such kind of jobs. Could be in a more modern Orthodox environment, people will appreciate it. But in our community, it's not something we're looking for. It's not something we appreciate, and it's not something that we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Blummy Gluck.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, hi, my name is Blumi. I'm here to represent the very many women in our community who had emergency deliveries with Hatzulah. When I called my OB in a panic, they calmly said, call Hatzulah. They know what to do. So my doctor feels fully confident with Hatzulah. And when they walked through the door, I knew the angels who come along on every call are here too. Because Hatzulah was inaugurated by our rabbis and with their exclusive blessing. This exclusive blessing takes away any trauma possibly involved in any emergency-related situation. In every generation, observant Jews faced opposition to the guidance of our leaders, and Ezras Nashim is no different. Their goal is only to challenge our commitment to Jewish law and to our rabbis. The very week Rabbi Fryer declared that the rabbi of New Square asked him to form this organization, I was a guest at the house of the rabbi's son. I inquired about this. The rabbi's son went to ask his father and came to tell me his father is clearly opposed to this in every way. The community of New Square was horrified. Their name was so publicly shamed. The one endorsement Ezras Nashim claims to have is false. Unfortunately, this is the essence of Ezras Nashim. They do not have our safety nor our modesty in mind. They publicize what they accomplished during COVID-19. Well, this is a lie. While every person in every corner of the entire area and beyond heard the wails of Hatzulah sirens at every hour of day and night, day in and day out, Ezras Nashim was busy filming their cars. While Hatzulah set up a liaison center outside Maimonides Medical Center to update worried families of patients who couldn't enter the hospital, Ezras Nashim was busy preparing for this hearing. And while Hatzulah obtained respirators for hospitals, where was Ezras Nashim? Any organization who wanted to help during this time found a place to help. They publicized that they were going around with oxygen tanks, but we all know it was the Yachad organization who did that, round the clock, along with experienced volunteer doctors coming along. Many of those doctors are also Hatzulah EMS. There is
Thank you. I appreciate it. Up next is Shauna Flom.
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for hearing me out. There's a little phrase that goes something like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't know why anybody would want to change or to mess with a system that's been working so competently and beautifully for 50, 60 years. I think in all neighborhoods, but particularly in Borough Park, the name and number of Hatzulah is synonymous with saving lives and with emergency care. I don't know a single human being, a single person in this community and in all communities that doesn't feel a sense of calm and security when they know that Hatzulah is 60 seconds away. I myself have had to call Hatzulah for myself or for friends or for neighbors. And yes, like everybody said, it's a male organization. I have never had a problem with modesty or sensitivity. On the contrary, I feel a sense of comfort when I know that there's a professional well-trained, experienced Hatzalah member coming to take control of the situation. I feel that adding another entity or a phone number to call is just going to confuse people, like others have said. This is not like opening up another grocery store on 13th Avenue. This is not a choice between buying milk here or buying milk there. This is people's lives. And most of the time, seconds count. So I think when there's another option, there's another phone call, there's another phone number to call, it's just going to add confusion. I feel like people are not going to know who should call. And I think ultimately it's going to risk lives and harm lives rather than save lives. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Up next is Melka Rosenberg. Yassi Humble. Okay, that is the last we have of the public speakers. So we'll have coming up the two parties, and they'll each have 10 minutes. However, before we do that, just to make sure, in the interest of fairness, anyone who registered and we didn't call or maybe missed if you were registered and somehow you missed your opportunity, we're going to read off some names.
So can we unmute the people who call in? Can we unmute the call-ins and call the names?
Or is anybody?
First one's unmuted.
Do we have any?
I don't have the list of everyone we've gone through. I just have call-in ones that are.
Could someone just speak up and say, I haven't been called, or?
They can't unless we.
Okay, then we'll move on then to.
Unmute first. Okay. Cool. He unmuted the person if you want them to say their name.
Does anybody not been afforded who signed up to speak? Great. So next we'll have the two parties. You each have 10 minutes. We'll start with Shevra Hatzalah first, and then after that, Ezra Najim. Also, if you want to be, on your video, just click the video so that you can be shown. Hold on as we work our way through this new technology. We're almost there. We're going to call up the people who represent each party. We've got to unmute you, and then we can call you up.
All right, I got audio back. This is Jeff Reisner. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Very well.
Is there anyone else on that needs to be unmuted?
On behalf of Hatzalah?
Yes.
No, I believe I'm speaking for the entity.
Great. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, sir. And thank you to all members of the committee who are here today. I do appreciate this. I know that this is an unprecedented hearing, and I do appreciate you pulling it together. That said, I do object to the short notice, and I would submit that if there had been a little bit more time to register, Hatzalah's support numbers would have been drastically higher. To that point, I note that per my count, Hatzalah's residents of Borough Park, who I actively identified as such, or at least implied the same, outnumber Ezrat Nashim's supporters, who equally referenced residents in Borough Park by 5-2 by my count. I believe that is likely a representative ratio, and I think that it may be actually skewed in favor of Ezrat Nashim. I think that had there been more notice, we would have been able to get a truer picture of the depth of the disdain for Ezrat Nashim's position, in that I do not believe that they speak for the women of Borough Park, and Hatzalah does not believe that they speak for the women of Borough Park. To further emphasize that point, I can state with certainty that Hatzalah only put the word out, so to speak, to the women of Borough Park, whereas a number of people who spoke on Ezrat Nashim actively referenced that they were from outside the neighborhood of Borough Park. And I think that that's important and that their testimony needs to be discounted accordingly. All of that being said, I spent the better part of my morning reviewing the 39-page ply brief filed by Ezrat Nashim's prior attorney. And I was a little taken aback by how much of it actually was spent just attacking Hatzalah. Because really what we're not here to talk about Hatzalah versus Ezrat Nashim. We're here to talk about whether Ezrat Nashim's application met the definition of public need as established in 0606. And it's very clear when you read the ALJ's opinion, or recommendation rather, that it does not. At first, I've got to say that I really was pleased with the way that ALJ Champion handled the report and recommendation, and that she was able to see through all of the mudslinging and just get right down to it and apply the standard that Hatzalah requested initially, which is to use a strict analysis of the 0606, a strict construction of the 0606 analysis in analyzing this application. And ALJ Champion did a nice job of that. Unfortunately, she got the conclusion wrong after she went ahead and separated the wheat from the chaff. What she really focused on was the issue of modesty. And that's fine. If we want to take the position that this is all about modesty, what we come away with is the fact that modesty, at the end of the day, is not a need under the 0606 analysis. It does arguably come under the other local factors variable that is considerable by the committee in determining whether the REMSCO's decision should be upheld or overturned. However, I think that any scrutiny of that point can only come down on the fact that it is a want, not a need. And applications of wishes, wants, and desires cannot be found to support a proof of need under 0606. That language is directly in the policy statement. Next. My next point is found on page 7 of 17 of the ALJ Champion's decision or report, excuse me. And at the last sentence of the first full paragraph there, she makes a statement which is legally incorrect. And this is, I think, the third time of the last 3 applications I've been involved with where a hearing officer or an ALJ incorrectly applies the tense in which the reallocation of resources must be analyzed. I think that that's a problem, and I think that it's something that needs to be brought to the committee and the council's attention, because for the third time in a row now, the ALJs or the hearing officers are saying that that the definition requires resources to have been reallocated prior to the application, when that is not what 0606 says. 0606 says that cannot be solved by the reallocation of resources, or that is not readily correctable by the reallocation of resources. It doesn't say that was readily correctable by the reallocation of resources. And I think that that issue and that erroneous interpretation of the policy sort of sets the stage for the other errors that ALJ Champion made in making her recommendation. Additionally, another huge mistake ALJ Champion made was finding that the doctrine of primacy of life only trumps the doctrine of modesty under Jewish law, where there's a life-threatening emergency in play. The local rabbis of Borough Park roundly reject that assertion, and they all support Hatzalah. We submitted, in opposition to the initial application, a letter signed by 49 local Borough Park rabbis who all state that the emergency need not be life-threatening. If it's an emergency, modesty comes second to primacy of life. And that is really the key here, because primacy of life, ALS care, and response time are what go to the needs analysis. Everything else amounts to feelings, wants, wishes, and desires. And those factors are not enough to prove need under 0606. They're just not. I can sympathize with a person's wants. However, if we want to go to a model where wants are sufficient to grant an ambulance license, we need to change the policy to make that what we need to prove up to. Right now, that is not the case, and the policy needs to be followed. Another thing that the ALJ did not address, nor did the hearing officer, is the fact that there are numerous commercial ambulance companies able to serve Borough Park who will put female medics on calls. There are female options available already. That is a crucial issue because it's something that has been essentially ignored despite the commercial carriers supporting Hatzola's opposition, or more aptly opposing Ezra Nashim's application at the Remsco level.
Just in the interest of fairness, you have 2 minutes left.
Thank you. I would like to echo a couple of the statements from women who spoke to just mention that the modesty issue that is falsely put forth by Ezra Nashim is not alleged where we're talking about doctors, only with respect to EMTs, and I think that that's disingenuous at best. I'd also like to point out that the ALJ's assertion that Ezra Nashim is in the community answering calls at present, that's never been fact checked. We're left to take them at their word with respect to the assertion as to their numbers of calls, and it's never been proven out. Their application was bereft of actual data supporting that. Additionally, ALJ Champion stated that neither the level of care nor the response times direct a specific result in this matter. And I think that that's really where the focus of this decision needs to be. Those absolutely direct the result. Wants, wishes, and desires relative to feelings cannot trump response times and ALS care. That is absolutely unconscionable, and that is where lost lives are going to come from. And it's up to this committee to uphold the appropriate application of 0606 in finding that the New York City Remsco knew the score better than ALJ Champion, and they made the right decision, and their decision must be upheld. As to ALJ Champion's assertion that Hatzalah and Ezra Nashim should settle their differences, so to speak, Hatzalah cannot be expected to bring women into their organization when those very women have cast such dispersion upon them through this process. I'm not saying Hatzalah shouldn't be expected to take women. That's not what I'm saying at all, but they shouldn't be expected to take Ezra Nashim. And I think it was inappropriate of ALJ Champion to suggest that.
And thank you very much. Your time is up. I appreciate it. And then up last, our representatives from Ezra Nazim. We think we figured out a way where we're going to open up the lines and you can break up the 10 minutes the way you want it, but you have 10 minutes.
Give us a minute.
And it will just give us a minute to process here. And we'll let you know at the 2-minute mark when you have 2 minutes left.
Is my audio working?
Yes.
Excellent.
What about me?
Yep.
How can I make my camera on?
What do you say? He's going to speak a little too. I think Brooklyn's on her. It's all done. They can't speak on it. That's all I have to say. No, I'm happy. Remsco was
There's no, the Miss Goldsmith is not there. She's not listed on
Could somebody there who you think should be on the call, could you just give the names and then to make sure that they're there so we don't have someone.
Jessica Goldsmith?
Okay. Jessica's on.
Anyone else?
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Anyone else that should be on?
Okay. So you have 5 minutes each then. People today.
Jack Weisshaus.
Javi Weisshaus is coming on, and Javi Friedman.
Oh,
All right.
She's what's on. Where's Jill? What is Javi? Jill?
Okay, hello. So we have everybody we need. You can divvy up the time you want. I'll let you know when 2 minutes are left, and you can feel free to go now. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll start. Hi, I'd like to share with you a letter that my mother, Rachel Fryer, the founder of Ezrat Nashim, wrote to me. Dearest Leah, many times you have asked me why Ezrat Nashim is so important to me. This letter is my answer. We are children and grandchildren of Holocaust survivors. They instilled in me an appreciation for this great country. They also taught me to be a proud American Jew and to value and cherish the religious freedoms this great country guarantees. I went to an all-girls Jewish school, which taught me the value and strength of Jewish women. The journey for a legal education was filled with naysayers who warned that I would fail and that if I succeeded, I would compromise my religious Hasidic values. Thus, I made my pact with God. Help me get through law school without compromising my religious values, and when your children come for help, I will help them. Shortly after graduating law school, I got involved with helping kids at risk. Soon thereafter, a group of female EMTs asked me to help them join Hatzalah so they could serve women during emergencies such as labor, delivery, hemorrhage, and miscarriage. I was so taken by their cause that I became an EMT, joined them, and became their director. Then I was warned by Hatzalah leadership to back down. It came as a shock that the organization, respected by the community, engaged in discriminatory practices. I witnessed a mere handful of men engage in coercion and intimidation to silence and manipulate sincere and earnest rabbis so that women are not only banned from Hatzalah, but from the field of EMS. But we have the support of the silent majority. They call us for help and encourage me to continue. We, a group of women trained as EMTs, fit and competent, ready, willing, and able to serve, continue being denied our constitutional right to serve our fellow women, whose religious culture of modesty often leaves them traumatized when treated by men familiar but unrelated to them. This bullying of women is uncharacteristic of the majority of observant Jewish men. This behavior is an aberration and embarrassment to our community, a desecration of God's holy name. We are passionate in our faith and belief. We will never give up. Ezrat Nashim successfully challenged opposition to become a basic life support first response agency. Now we challenge the opposition again in order to satisfy the need for ambulance transport by women for women, respecting the dignity and modesty of Jewish women. We believe that God controls our destiny and that justice, law, and order will prevail. I now turn to you, SEMSCO members. You have an awesome responsibility and the opportunity to ensure justice. We need your help so that we can meet the needs of women in Borough Park. Thank you.
Anyone else speaking?
I mean, I would like to speak. Are you putting me on a 2-minute timer?
Is this the 10? Are you part of this
part of the
group?
10 minutes.
So you've got whatever's left of the 10 minutes.
Okay, my name is Jessica Goldsmith, and through the help of the organization Ezrat Nashim, I've become an EMT. I've also going to paramedic school this September. Unlike the majority of people that spoke today, I was not born into the frum community. This is a way of life that I chose, and Ezrat Nashim has granted me the ability to operate within my values of modesty and within the Torah to become an EMT, because Hatzalah is not accepting women, despite what people are saying. In the year 2020, I don't believe that any organization should have the power to say when and where women can become something. If the issue, which somebody stated that there's 911 already, why is Hatzalah still around? I mean, honestly, someone also said that you can request a female EMT through 911. This is false. When you are dispatched to an emergency through 911, you do not have the choice of choosing a man or woman. Someone also, I'd like to address the fact that they said their aide might have been confused by which number to call. If someone can't distinguish a basic phone number for emergency care, perhaps they should get a new aide. The fact that no rabbi backs us is also a lie, that us becoming EMTs is immodest. It's a life-saving technique that we're certified through the state. And I'd also like to just say that we just went through COVID, which not only affected the world, but it greatly affected New York State, so much so that Governor Cuomo actually had to call in help from outside of the state for healthcare professionals. Had Ezras Nashim actually had the opportunity to have an ambulance, I cannot imagine what more good they would have done that they already haven't done.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else wanting to speak?
Yes.
With your group?
Yes, please.
We got 5 minutes left, so.
Okay. By now you are familiar. Sorry. Should I go ahead?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fine. By now you are familiar with the Jewish Modesty Guidelines, which is the driving force of Ezras Nashim, but you may not know the Jewish guidelines on prohibited speech, which I personally study every day. Based on the verse, you must not go about spreading slander among your people, Leviticus 19:16. However, God does not want us to be naive. The Torah commands us, do not stand aside while your fellow's blood is being shed. We are obligated to spare no effort in preventing our fellow man from suffering physical, monetary, or emotional damage. Then we are obligated to speak up. If we allow an evil person to rise up unchecked in our midst and we do not take a stand against the evil, our silence is not counted as righteousness, but as foolishness for allowing a cancer to grow unhindered. So it is with pain I must go against my nature and continue. Hatzalah, you left.
Just to let everyone know, there's 4 minutes left for the group, so I don't know how you want to divvy up that time. Me talking right now doesn't count.
Any productive relationship Ezras Nashim established, Hatzalah would undermine, whether it was hospitals for training, purchasing of supplies and equipment, or recruiting members. About 5 years ago, I had a recruitment drive in my house with approximately 50 women, mostly medically trained nurses, EMTs, and doulas, eager and passionate about joining Ezras Nashim. One by one, they all backed out, saying members of Hatzalah threatened them, they will lose their jobs, their kids will be expelled from their yeshivas, should they be part of Ezras Nashim. Our modesty guidelines protect women from sexual misconduct. Does it make sense that we are being opposed here when we want to strengthen and uphold these guidelines for our protection? Ezras Nashim women are highly skilled and trained to give professional emergency care to the women in the community. Should emergency medical care for women be in the hands of these type of men? Does it even make sense for Ezras Nashim to not have an ambulance? I'm done.
And thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And Steve Cohen, you have 2 minutes to speak. You weren't present earlier, but I know you represent this group.
I was present. I was muted. I couldn't get myself off mute. Also, I would point out that we were told that the Ezras Nashim supporters would be speaking last, so many of these people weren't available early on. I would say that the last 3 speakers should be given the 2 minutes apiece, and this 10 minutes should be reserved for me.
Sarah Weishaus has to say her piece. She's...
Hi.
So we're moving forward to
Yes, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Yes.
Is there anything more?
Yes, what I was saying was that the prior speakers were told.
Sarah Weishaus needs to go first, please.
Is somebody else speaking? Same time I am?
Yeah, Sarah Weishaus needs to go first. She's waiting,
Okay, well, and to that point, I'm asking the host and the presenter to consider that we were given an email. I could send the email to you that our speakers would be going last after the Hatzalah supporters, and for that time,
But you are going last. You have 10 minutes. Yeah. Your group has 10 minutes. You're going last.
Right, but those other people were not they were speakers that should have been given 2 minutes apiece earlier, is my position. In any event.
Okay. But let's just move forward. So how much time is left?
Yeah.
Okay.
One?
Yeah, we need Sarah Weishaus to speak first.
Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Sarah Weishaus, an EMT and registered nurse at Ezras Nashim. I ask that the council vote in favor of adopting the ALJ's report and recommendation and approve Ezras Nashim's application for an ambulance. The need is self-evident. The tense opposition presented by Hatzalah confirm its inability to accommodate the needs of those needing female first responders. It's a shame and reversible error that Remsco is subjecting women to be treated by other men who cannot tolerate other women. I have a cousin that died because of the shame. Her vein burst in the shower and she could not bring being exposed naked to males of her community, and unfortunately, she did not make it. At Ezra Nashim, we regularly attend to women whose veins burst. We are trained to stop the bleeding and assist with transport, which interestingly enough was how my first Ezra Nashim call went. I witnessed many conflicts that Hatzalah creates with Ezra Nashim risking the patient's health. In particular, I had an incident where a female patient requested transport by Ezra Nashim, which we provide through our affiliation with FIDNI. And Hatzalah interfered and claimed an exclusive territorial right to transport Jewish patients. Hatzalah would not allow me to transport this patient because we do not have our own ambulance. It is for incidents like this that we need our own ambulance. According to the 2011 census, Borough Park consists of over 140,000 Jews. Our founder, Judge Fryer, was elected to public office with over 60,000 votes. The community trusts Judge Fryer as a champion of their needs. Hatzalah's petition of 300 signatures does not even make up a fraction of the community. Therefore, I ask that the council adopt the ALJ's report and recommendation and grant Ezra Nashim the right to have an ambulance service. Just because a few people out there do not want Ezra Nashim, it doesn't mean that we're not needed. Thank you for helping us advocate for better healthcare.
Thank you very much. And then Steve Cohen will give you 2 minutes. We did call you earlier, and I know we've been trying to reach you. So in the interest of fairness, we'll give you 2 minutes, and you'll be the last speaker of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen of SEMSCO, Hatzalah commends the process and reasoning of the administrative law judge, but curiously disputes Her Honor's findings. Counsel criticizes what he calls a misapplication and misinterpretation of the law. I remind you that Hatzalah's counsel's formal submission, dated April 10th, 2020, appears to refer on page 6, paragraph 2, to the SEMSCO as the Gentile Court of Public Opinion. This extraordinary proceeding has not been about fitness, competency, or need. Their fitness and competency has not been questioned. Need has been found by the REMSCO hearing officer and by the administrative law judge, who said that based on the entire record, the applicant has shown that a need exists for additional services in the Borough Park area of Brooklyn and Kings County, and that those needs are not readily correctable through the reallocation of or improvement of existing resources. The New York City REMSCO's decision should be reversed and Ezrat Nashim's application should be granted. New York City REMSCO's decision was contrary to their own hearing officer, Frank J. Horn, Esquire, who on 11/11 of 19 recommended that the application be granted. 330 residents of approximately 83,400 women who live in the Borough Park community represents 0.3%. That's who Hatzalah is bringing forth as the basis for denying the application. This is not about fitness, competency, or need. It's about the influence of the politically powerful and financially strong Hatzalah in attempting to block an obviously fit and competent and needed Ezrat Nashim. It is about an organization that refuses to allow women to join their ranks and to provide service. The speaker at 1:42 p.m. talked about many women choosing male practitioners. Key word there is choice. Right now, there is no choice. It was only after women were rejected from Hatzalah that Ezrat Nashim came into being.
Thank you very much. Your time is up. I appreciate it. And that's the last speaker of the day. I really appreciate how everybody was very considerate of time, and I think it went smoothly. I'm going to hand over now that this portion is over, and I'm going to hand it back to the chair to conclude.
Thank you very much, sir, and I want to thank everyone for your participation today in this event. This will conclude the public hearing for the State EMS Council on this matter, and we will deliberate this matter at the full council at a future date to be announced by the Bureau of EMS. At that time, from the membership of the council, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Paul Godolpho, I'll make the motion to adjourn.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Patty seconds it.
Well, thank you, Vashon. Are there any objections to the conclusion of the hearing? Very well, hearing none, and I'll conclude the hearing at this time, and I thank the participants and the members of the Bureau of EMS for your assistance in holding this hearing today. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Greenberg, I turn it back to you.
Thanks for joining us today, everybody. Have a nice day.